And just to get started here, can we just go over what a contempt of Congress means and why somebody could be held? Could you walk us through this?
Sure. Yeah. Dr. Fauci received a subpoena of a legal subpoena from the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, which is chaired by Senator Rand Paul. And he was expected to come and answer questions on a whole series of topics, including the origins of COVID and a number of biosafety issues having to do with the research that the National Institute of Health funded on the coronavirus, on whether there was oversight on possible gain of function. So there were a whole bunch of questions. And instead of answering those questions when he showed up, Dr. Fauci just made a kind of scripted set of remarks and then declined to answer any questions at all. And this was in spite of his pardon by President Biden. So the question is whether he is essentially obstructing an investigation and sort of flagrantly disregarding the responsibility of Congress and his legal obligation to provide honest answers to the questions that Congress has.
And that's what I wanted to ask too. So are you legally obligated to answer those questions in those hearings?
So a person has, there isn't a legal obligation to answer. Under the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution, there's a right against self-incrimination that a person has in any proceeding where you're at risk of criminal liability. And so the question here is, did Dr. Fauci really face that risk even after President Biden pardoned him?
Right, and that's so interesting with that pardon. If it could even be incriminated for anything that it could have been said. So, with this contempt of Congress, is there enough evidence to hold Dr. Fauci in contempt? How does this play out when this vote happens later on today?
Well, so the first thing what's happening this morning is a vote by this 15-member committee about whether he essentially obstructed their investigation. And it looks like we are going to see a vote in favor of a contempt of Congress hearing in this committee. Ordinarily, that would be referred to the full Senate for a vote. Although it sounds here like Chairman Paul is going to refer this directly to the Department of Justice. So even whether it gets to the Senate or not, there will be a look at prosecution. The big question is whether a criminal prosecutor, a U.S. attorney, for example, the Department of Justice, will actually bring a charge and ask a federal judge to order Dr. Fauci to answer and potentially face a conviction for contempt.
And what happens if Fauci is held in contempt and that vote goes through? What's the next steps then if that happens?
So it is contempt of Congress is a federal law that he would subject him to potentially a term of imprisonment from anywhere from 1 day to 1 year. So it certainly is possible. It's going to be much harder at the prosecutorial level and for a judge to make a finding. Right now, it seems that this committee has all that it needs just because Dr. Fauci was so clearly, unwilling to answer any of its questions, and the senators have the discretion to take this vote and make this decision. And so it certainly seems he will at least have been subjected to it at the committee level. And who knows, within the next few days, we may see the full Senate taking up and making the same decision.
And there's been also a lot of talk about the diary that Dr. Fauci's diary, that there were some entries in there that seemed to be basically different from what was announced to the public with the pandemic. Do you see this possibly coming up again when it comes to the contempt vote, or what we could see with further developments of this diary?
Yeah, I think it's actually a very interesting question, about whether Dr. Fauci was honest with Congress and with the country about COVID when he was privately recording other remarks. Now, it's tricky because we generally do think that a person has the right, even a person who takes a confident position with certainty in public might personally have doubts. And the question here is, was this just sort of Dr. Fauci ruminating about his own internal questions, or did it actually go to him being dishonest about the origins of COVID, about the funding of research that was happening, about the biosafety issues? There's some very hard questions and about whether he fulfilled his responsibilities, and about whether this is on the other hand, whether this is the Senate engaging in political retribution or really trying to impose serious oversight on a public health official who may have exposed us to risk.
And what crime could that fall under? Is it a crime to mislead the public on certain information when it comes to health?
I mean, we have a lot of laws about fraud. In this case, it's really the question is so if he did tell make materially dishonest facts in his public role, that would be a basis. What's really going on here is that Congress, certainly the Senate, this committee believes that the majority of this committee believes that he deliberately obstructed a lawful investigation by refusing to comply and simply not letting them do the work that they need to do. So he's not being. This isn't strictly speaking a vote on whether he was honest or dishonest, and more about whether he, obstructed an investigation.
And in your legal expertise with the hearing last week with Dr. Anthony Fauci pleading the fifth, would the answering any questions that the lawmakers had for him, could that ever even be used against him since he had that pardon?
So that's really a big question here. He's already at a federal level. He's immune for everything that happened from the date of the pardon. So unless we're talking about something new that he did, he really doesn't face any federal exposure. The other question, though, is whether a state might bring an action. We know, for example, that the Florida Attorney General is among state attorney generals who have talked about bringing an independent case against Dr. Fauci, and that would not be covered by President Biden's pardon. So he is there. That's sort of I think the kernel of legitimacy to Dr. Fauci's concern is that whether the states would take action. And it's really a tricky issue. This case raises some serious constitutional questions about whether that's a legitimate basis for him to not answer questions, or whether he is just obstructing, important unanswered questions that the Senate and that the public want to have answers to.
And you lead me right into the next question with the Florida Attorney General announcing yesterday that he has issued an investigative subpoena against Dr. Fauci. So how could we see this now play out?
Yeah, so that's if there is a subpoena and if he is compelled to testify in Florida, I think that's a whole new ballgame, because it means that he's not covered by the presidential pardon, and he's going to have to answer questions, and he could be facing additional risk of jail time if he doesn't want to really come to grips with the contradictions between what he said publicly and what he wrote privately, and what really happened, where COVID really originated, what research, if any, the federal government funded in China, all of these very important questions. So I think Florida is going to be really a linchpin to putting additional pressure here. And, this is going to be a case that I think we'll be talking about for years in terms of the responsibility of public health officials and the risk that they take when they don't exercise full accountability.
Right, and could we even see other states try to do this as well? And how could that even work if you have so many states that could potentially be doing the same thing with subpoenas? How would that work?
Yeah, it could get really messy. This is clear. Generally we think of these issues of public safety as being primarily federal. We have like the FDA, the Food Drug Administration, Department of Health and Human Services. We have these big federal agencies that are the ones who are investing in the funding and are supposed to be providing oversight. And we're living in a time when the distrust that we're seeing in issues like vaccination, all kinds of issues where we don't have the consensus that the federal government is doing the job, is leading many states to independently start, investigating and considering whether they should be taking action. I don't think it's a great development for sort of a unified approach to public health, but it is where we are, and I think we're going to see more rather than less activity at the state level on issues like this going forward.
Harry Nelson, we covered a lot of ground with this. Is there anything else that I may have missed, or any final thoughts that you have on this?
I think we should. It's a fascinating case to pay attention to for the constitutional issues here. Obviously, the big question on a lot of people's minds is whether the public is going to get the answers that it wants on all these questions about COVID. And I think the hard part is going to be the work of figuring out what happens down the road. The work for lawyers of what this pardon covers, what general criminal exposure remains, and whether the Fifth Amendment protected his silence. So a lot more to come here.
And we'll definitely keep up with how that'll play out later today. Harry Nelson with partner of Leash Tishman, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Take care.